The metaverse. It's a term that's become the buzzword of the decade. A name that's either come to define the inevitable future of the internet or potentially make you cringe. But what is it really? The promise of Web 3, an immersive three-dimensional world, or just more sales and marketing hype? For now, it's safe to say a lot of people are trying to figure this out and make it happen. So we are going to talk to some of them, and we're going to find out how the future is being built. So strap yourself in as we go searching for the future into the verse. To all of those watching from the future, the year is 2022. 2 long years of global pandemic, quarantine, remote work have given rise to the rapid acceleration of digital transformation, and it's amplified by the need for more connective technology. But even before the viral superstorm began, the change was being set in motion by the rise of omni-channel experiences, the prominence of e-commerce, and the explosive growth of gaming around the world. Added to this was the growth of popular culture's interest in multiverses.
Thank you.
And the rise of cryptocurrencies and the social media giant Facebook changing its name to Meta. It was crazy.
Facebook is changing its branding with a new name and logo.
Starting today, our company is now Meta.
The metaverse hasn't just landed in the cultural zeitgeist. The concept is creating new channels, platforms, products, and opportunities as the hottest new tech trend on the planet, as well as an inescapable buzzword, the M word. I left the metaverse to be here. Do you know what the metaverse is?
Is it a place that's like a real life, but on the internet?
I think it has to do with like gaming and blockchain, NFTs, something.
I believe it's like an alternate digital world
where people convene to interact on any number of issues.
Is it utopian ideal, or do you think of it more as a dystopian way?
We'd like to think of it as more utopic, at least in conception.
From Tron to Ready Player One, there have been dozens of fictional interpretations of what the metaverse could be. But we do know one fact. The term metaverse is solidly rooted in science fiction. It was first mentioned by name in the 1992 book Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. In this groundbreaking novel, the metaverse is a city on a planet of nothingness accessed by a VR headset. Users play as avatars who can obtain access to rare and valuable gear if the user has the clout and the skill to retrieve it. Yet predating the metaverse in Snow Crash, the concept was first introduced in the cyberspace of the Matrix in William Gibson's Neuromancer. The term Matrix was also borrowed by the Wachowskis as the title of the 1999 film.
This is the construct. We can load anything from clothing to equipment, weapons.
The paranoid sci-fi action film The Matrix was single-handedly responsible for solidifying the concept of an alternate digital reality in the minds of the masses. But as digital worlds go, Ernest Cline's novel Ready Player One, interpreted for screens by Steven Spielberg, added a whopper-sized share of 80s pop culture to its metaverse. The aptly named Oasis is a paradise for those looking for fun, freedom, and meaning in a dystopian future plagued by poverty, overpopulation, and corporate greed.
These days, reality is a bummer. Everyone's looking for a way to escape.
Yep, that's some pretty depressing stuff. But these verses were also places where people could live entirely different lives that were, in theory, not bound to the constraints of the real world. You could look like or be anyone or anything, go to live in all sorts of different worlds, have superpowers, or access to crazy gadgets, vehicles, and toys. As they say, the limit is truly your own imagination. So in 2017, you wrote Charlie Fink's Metaverse. Now, how do you define it today in 2022?
First of all, when we're talking about the metaverse, we are talking about VR. I think the difference between the metaverse and internet right now is that on the internet right now, you do not have embodied presence. Embodied presence is the fundamental idea behind VR.
I think the most exciting thing is this march from 2D to 3D. Computing's quite flat at the moment, it's very powerful, but it doesn't represent how we see our world, which is in 3 dimensions.
The virtual world doesn't need to be just a game. We're realizing that people want that interaction, people want that personalization.
Customers say, I want to build a metaverse. I immediately say, no, you don't. You don't want to build a metaverse. You want to build an interactive 3D experience.
Currently, immersive environments attract visitors for a myriad of reasons. To game or hang with friends, to participate in virtual experiences and events, to acquire digital and physical stuff, to build and create. But when it comes to strictly social platforms, OGs like Second Life have been there, done that, and once again are in high demand. At this moment, the backbone of the metaverse may actually be solidified through the digital economy. It's undeniable that NFTs, cryptocurrency, and virtual land grabs are causing huge disruption in the global economy, just through the sheer volume of capital they now attract.
There's virtual items, there's a virtual economy, there's avatars, all of those things that are now kind of core tenets in some people's minds of like the metaverse as an identity. You're seeing why a big push from Nike and Gucci and Balenciaga in this space is fashion, is because it's not actually a marketing thing, it's a new channel to sell items.
Certainly we will have digital goods in the metaverse, and certainly there will be ways to make sure that there are possessions. So I don't think this idea of owning digital objects is bad, but I question owning digital objects that don't do anything.
Meanwhile, newsrooms keep churning out prophecies about how people will interact. Gartner predicts 25% will spend at least 1 hour per day in the metaverse by 2026. And according to the Future Today Institute, by 2030, others will live the majority of their waking hours jacked in.
Our lives are becoming more digitalized as ever, from mobile technology, payments, finance. That's kind of just happening, and this is almost that continued push into virtualization.
We need a meta layer that would allow you to take your avatar and your possessions and your one true identity place to place.
But we're also seeing these massive technology companies that don't want to make it too open. But I think what's nice is the microverses that grow up, and when they get big enough, they will almost demand the decentralization or the interoperability from the larger platforms.
But man,
that's a challenge.
That's a human coordination problem. That's not a technical problem.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to take 10, 15, 20 years before that all gets ironed out.
What we think the metaverse is and what it is likely to become will be dependent on how it's used and how widespread it's adopted by consumers. Like any new technology, the bandwagon has a compounding effect. While the community of tech entrepreneurs, new entrants, and early adopters are likely to speed its evolution, the way in which it's utilized, adopted, and eventually, yes, monetized will determine the future of how we interact with the metaverse and possibly each other.
It's easy to think it's super far out, but there's really smart people who are incredibly passionate who are doing it.
Yeah.
As we speak, they're building these networks.
I think we're going to see some incredibly fast iteration. And so we're seeing innovation in the graphics cards and the architecture there. We're going to have to see it in the telco network and edge compute and spatial computing. And that is just the plumbing and the wiring.
Just imagine opening up to a completely new medium that hasn't been explored. I think that's the beauty of it. It's not thinking that we're just going to translate what exists right now into a new space, but what can artists create inside of this new environment?
Hope is what drives us. So I hope it's a better future. It's exciting from just a technology standpoint. It's incredible, the world that we're entering. It's the world we've been talking about for the past 30 years, and now it's finally happening. But I do think that wherever humans go, we take our good and bad with us.
This is horrifying that we can now do stand-up comedy in VR because I'm officially out of reasons to go outdoors.
In order to meet the masses, it may well be that the metaverse needs what the internet already has: authentic stories, a robust community, a place to express identity, multiple interfaces, and immersive environments to navigate. We're at the start of the start, where opportunity, possibility, and imagination collide. This is precisely the reason for all the hype. Anything is possible. That's why this is not the end, but merely the beginning of our expedition to explore. This is not an undertaking for a mere mortal, no. We need our avatar where we're going. Here the laws of nature or physics have no hold. For this trip, we leave the real world behind and venture into the verse.
You better move. Move.